Hello, everyone. We have Ofer Hermoni with us today. Thank you so much for joining. He is a superstar trying to teach us more about AI, specifically about open source AI, and he'll tell us more about it. He has his own consultancy. He helps startups and get into AI and actually just helps them out with their business. So tell us more about you because I'm excited about this interview.
Thank you for inviting me. So basically about myself. So currently I'm doing a consultancy mainly. I work with two different types of customers. On the one end, startups, as you mentioned. So I help startups in many, many different things. AI is one of them. And the other one is pure AI consultancy, where I work usually with large corporates and global companies on their AI strategy and implementation. This is what I do now. Before that, I've done some other things. I co-founded two startups. 6.5 years ago, we worked on a new idea. It was something very similar to a Hugging Face. And we worked on it, several companies together. And we decided, wait, if we work on it together, maybe we want to contribute it to open source. And this is where my open source AI journey started. We basically founded the Linux Foundation AI, which is a foundation within the larger Linux Foundation focused on AI open source. Early on, when we founded it, I was the first technical chair, led the foundation for a couple of years, and now I'm still contributing, still enjoying, and leading today one of the generative AI Commons projects.
That's exciting. Tell me more about the Linux Foundation and what do you guys do?
So basically, not the entire Linux Foundation, but Linux Foundation AI. So basically, Linux Foundation AI is focused on open source AI. I would divide what we do into two areas. One is hosting AI open source projects.
Yeah.
And we have now, when we started it, we started with one project, the one that is similar to Hugging Face. But since then, we have more than 80 open source AI projects, which is pretty amazing.
Amazing.
This is the one side. And the other side is all the committees, all the work that we do across the industry, across the project. And this is where I contribute my time. And we run working groups on responsible AI, on education and outreach, generative AI, security in AI, and some other things that are very important to all of us.
So, what is the project? Tell us a little more about one of the projects that you're most excited about that you're currently running.
So, do you want to hear something about the open source or the Linux Foundation AI, or do you want to talk about other projects?
Whatever you think is best. Tell me what keeps up your time and what makes you excited about these projects. Just one or
So,
two.
yeah, okay. So maybe we can talk a little bit about one of the projects. This is not a recent one, but I think it changed my perspective a little bit.
Okay.
So as part of my consultancy, I have done a couple of M&A projects. And this specific one, I was the buying company, the public company approached to me and asked me and came with the following question. We want to buy this company, we want to acquire this company. And our question is whether AI and Gen AI will replace this company.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. The intuitive answer, and I still think this is the right answer in like 99% of the cases, yes, it will. The question is when and how efficiently, but it will. And I'm one of those that believe that I don't know when, I think soon, sooner than later, will replace a lot of what we do. And basically, I started to investigate into this project, into this company. I was the last gate for this acquisition, like 9-figure acquisition. I had to give my opinion.
Yeah.
And based on the specific situation, I gave the green light and they acquired this company. And basically, it's interesting because for sure we will replace this eventually, but it will take time and the data needed in order to replace is not available out there.
Mm.
This was my recommendation back then.
What kind of consideration did you have to make in order to give your opinion?
So basically understanding the current state of the technology. understanding what is out there and what data was used in order to train the models and what they can perform in this specific situation. The task that this company is doing is very unique, very special, and the data is proprietary. But there are not many companies around the world that have the ability to build models. So this was the main reason to decide to give the green light.
You must have felt a lot of pressure to make a decision because it's such a big acquisition.
Yes. I don't know. I didn't feel the pressure because it's not my money. The transaction happened almost a year ago, and I still think this was the right decision. Maybe in a year, I will change my mind.
Well, tell me a little bit more about how things are changing. You said in a year, things could be completely different. What are some of the things that you see coming up in the next year, 5 years?
Yeah. So this is a big question, right? I like it. I think that many things will be changed. Let's talk about 5 years. We just, before we started recording this, I shared with you that I have a son that is now graduating high school.
That's right.
And he wants to go to college and take computer science.
Yeah.
And I wonder, and I would love to hear your thoughts. I wonder if in 5 years, so he has one more year in school and then 4 in college, does he have job? Our graduate computer science students have something to do out there? And I'm not sure, to be honest. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought about it as well. I guess in my case, my daughter's more liberal arts. She wants to be a lawyer. So she, was trying to figure out what to do her undergrad in. And I kind of steered her away for the same reason, honestly, from computer science. And the reason is because I do feel a lot of the software development life cycle, the things that I used, like I had a bachelor's in computer science, a lot of it was focused on the language, learning different languages, operating in those languages, understanding systems and networks and all of that. Foundational knowledge, there will be so much access to that information from a monitoring perspective that you don't really need to speak the lingo of computer science. You can do it using just logic and natural language to interface with it. In my honest opinion, I'm steering my kids away from computer science. I think they still need to, I steer them towards using AI like Claude or ChatGPT in their daily life. And I'm trying to show them how to do it. But I don't think they need to have that foundational kind of like, how do I program an object oriented language, which is what I was learning way back then.
So let me give you the other side. So you said your daughter is taking law school. So I am a business owner.
Yeah,
I have a lawyer.
for sure.
But to be honest, 99% of the legal work I do myself with ChatGPT or Claude. I only ask my lawyer very specific questions. I usually give him the agreement. Okay, just is this okay? This specific line because I'm not sure about it, and that's it. And my experience, those tools are doing amazing job.
No, I agree. Things that like looking up, researching law, precedents, how's this law? So would you steer your kids nowadays? So it's not law, it's not computer science. Where should they go and study?
To be honest, I don't know.
Yeah.
I really, really don't know. And I spend a lot of time thinking about it. And I talk about it with anyone that wants to talk to me about it. I don't know. He really likes computer science.
Yeah.
So let it be computer science.
Sure.
I hope he will find what to do in 5 years.
I'm sure you will. I mean, I don't think, sometimes when we're in this space and we're so deeply ingrained, it seems like everybody's doing AI. But if you just step outside and you just visit a little village, say in Italy, and you just say the word AI, they imagine these horrible, hasta la vista robot coming to take over the world. You can't even say artificial intelligence. They say, don't talk to me about that. I don't want to hear that word. So it's interesting to me how divergent people are becoming. And what I'm worried, honestly, is about almost like a caste system that's coming out of this whole thing is people who know how to use AI and tools and those that don't. And that divide is gonna become wider because the people that can use it will become a lot more powerful in terms of how quickly they can get information and
Yeah,
effective.
I agree. I shared earlier that I am part of the Linux Foundation AI, and now what I lead is the education and outreach. We focus on developers and practitioners of AI. This is one side. We want to educate them about open source AI and the tools that are available there, but also in the general public. I think it's very important because many people don't know anything about AI. And I think we have to teach everyone to use these tools and allow them to improve themselves and multiply their abilities.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a huge believer in that. I think training is so important. And because it's now a natural language, they can communicate in their own language. It's not like you have to teach someone English, for example.
Mhm.
There's more information available on the internet in English, but you can use your native language to communicate with these machines, which I think makes it even more powerful
Yeah.
and engaging.
And I think this is where open source can create a lot of impact because currently a lot of the AI development is being in one part of the world, one small area. San Francisco Bay Area is the big hub of AI. And I think there are some other projects in different locations, different countries, but still San Francisco is the biggest. And open source, if open source is available, let's take foundation model LLMs, for example. If you can train or fine tune them into different cultures, great. So you can adapt to your own culture. Yeah. So this is something that open source is very important in this democratizing the.
Absolutely. Because, I mean, let's be honest, like the cost of using large language models, right? If you are really, or training your own models is expensive. I mean, you have to have certain amount of capital. Sometimes even educational institutions don't have the money to train on these
Mhm.
large language models. So how do you see, I want to be more educated on this. How do you see open source helping with that? Like, would that allow more kind of contributions from different areas? How do you see it growing?
So maybe let's take a step back. Define for a second what open source AI is. Do you know what source AI is? I don't because it is not yet defined.
Yeah.
There is a global effort for the past 2 years, OSI, Open Source Initiative. This is the a non-profit organization that defines open source in the world
Yeah.
for the past 20 years. And for the past 2 years, we are working on an initiative to define open source AI. And we are September now, end of September, in a couple of weeks. This process will be over, or at least over for now, and we will release the definition of open source AI. When you think about open source software, it's easy. All you need is to allow the four freedoms. So basically, use, study, modify, and share. And that's it. If you allow all those four freedoms, and for example, you select an Apache 2.0 or MIT instance, that's it. It's an open source. With AI, it's much more complex because AI is not only code. You have also you have the data
Hmm.
associated with the AI model, and you have documentation, which is very important because with AI, sometimes without the documentation, you can't really study, modify, share, or use because you need the knowledge.
Yeah.
And this 2 year process that we about to finalize soon was like debatable, let's say it
It,
like that. And there are voices that, okay, let's take everything to open. Let's say the data, the documentation and the code, everything is completely open. And this was my first thought when I was asked. But basically, there it's more complex than we think about it, and we decided, or the community,
yeah.
it's a global effort with global impact. So the community eventually decided that the data doesn't have to be open, but you have to provide enough information about the data. This is a compromise, But the reason that we took this decision is because we didn't want to end up with an empty set of models. We wanted to make sure that some of the open source models out there are indeed open or comply with the open source definition.
Oh, that's super interesting. And the thing that probably makes it complex too is that artificial intelligence, as it kind of evolves, it could start modifying, right? Like even if you give open source data, for example, that data can start being modified based on whatever the agent decides to do with it, right? So it's not all, I think what makes it more complex in terms of open source and just application of it is that once AI starts doing something with it, we don't have full control and visibility into what it is.
Yeah, that's and when it comes to regulation as well, this is a problem, and there was a big debate in the EU AI Act about open source. Initially, all the limitations that are applied to companies were applied to open source, and now there is a definition of open source in the AI Act, and there are some differences. So this is an important thing, and I think that moving forward, the real question is whether this definition will be adopted or not. Whether companies will make the effort to comply with the definition. Because we have what we call the open washing. Everything is open.
Right.
I have an open source AI model. Sometimes it's really easy to say, okay, this is not open source. Even if you check the code, the license, if there are limitations, commercial limitation, this is not open source. Llama, for example.
Right. I was going to ask you about Llama, what you thought of that.
Yeah, so I think Llama is one of the greatest things happened in the AI open domain,
Yeah.
but this is not an open source project. For sure, this is not an open source model because of the limitations and some other aspects as well.
Yeah.
But there are models that we identified as open, almost, for example, T5, Pitaya, and some others.
Okay. So you provide that list of models that you consider open source based on the criteria that's been defined.
Yeah, and it's not, I'm not doing that. We basically invited many of the groups to work with us.
Okay.
So we had working groups coming from all those companies, all those contributors, and they analyzed their own model based on the criteria, and they provided us their analysis. Or we did it in collaboration with them, actually.
Okay. So one of the questions I had, I know we talked about models, but how is the whole software development lifecycle going to change? Are there going to be changes?
So since I am doing startup consultancy as well, I have pretty good visibility to all the advancements, the bleeding edge technology. And I already see in software development amazing things out there already. And in my opinion, I look at the software development lifecycle in the same way that we look at self-driving cars. Maybe this took a lot of time or still takes a lot of time, but then basically phase 0, this is us 3 years ago, I would say. Yeah. Or 5 years ago. We just write our own code. We do everything manually. We do it with our hands. And then phase 1 is where we are now or where we were in the past couple of years. We have copilots. So we want to write some code, we use copilots and we take the input of the copilot and we put it in our development. The copilot can help us also in creating a test and stuff like that. So copilot, this is phase 1. Phase 2 is where agents starting to replace complete tasks. So you take some basic coding, for example, and agent is doing that. Agent is taking responsibility for a complete area in testing, complete area in deployment, in some other things. So this is a phase 2. And so we have human in the loop, but human is in control, is leading. Then phase 3 is agents. Agents are taking more and more responsibility. They are now leading the process. Human is no longer controls. The human is in the loop, or maybe only help when the AI doesn't know what to do, but the agents are leading.
Yeah.
And then phase 4, agents are doing everything, but still in the same structure that we know. So we have a backend developer, and it's agent, not a
Right.
person. We have a front-end developer. We have someone who's doing the DevOps, security, and monitoring, but still agents. And this may take some time, and at least we will understand what is going on. And then phase 5, we completely lose control. We have no idea what is going on there. Just you ask something or it asks itself and it happens like a magic.
So how fast are we going to move from phase 1 to phase 5?
Oh, this is the question. I think that we are seeing phase 2. We're already now.
Yeah.
Like humans still control, but we have agents doing some stuff. I think phase 3, when agent lead, the technology is almost there. In some areas, it's already there.
Right.
Probably the technology will be ready in 2 years or so, but adoption takes much more time.
Uh,
There are,
yeah.
you talked about Italy. So large corporates, for example, it's much harder for them to implement something like that. There are other forces that will be part of this process that will then, and due to those forces, it will take more time. I don't know, maybe 4, 5
Yeah.
years?
Which is not that long if you think about it.
No, not that long. No, maybe phase 4. Phase 5 is like, phase 5, we are obsolete anyways. So whenever we reach to the phase 5 or AGI or ASI or whatever we call it,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. That's the part everybody anticipates and no one knows what to expect, right? So which industries do you see most kind of being transformed by this technology, by this AI? Like what do you see coming? I mean, the corporates would take longer. Startups hopefully will push them along just from a competition perspective. So what are some industries where you see this change just kind of making a huge difference in the short term?
So, the easy answer is climate, health, education, but these are not my domains. Unfortunately, I think education is fascinating, and I am sure AI should completely change it. It's funny, the other day, my son and I drove to a game, and we started talking about he's going to take computer science. And he asked me, he said something like, I'm sure that computer science in your time is completely different than in my time.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't think so.
They're not teaching it that way.
And so we called my professor, who was the computer science chair and department chair, and he's part of the government program to teach computer science in schools. We called him and we asked him, what has changed? And basically, yes, they take more courses or 1 or 2 courses on AI.
Yeah.
But the way that they teach is the same. And I'm sure it's almost the same as my parents' experience. So, and there is room for complete change. I don't know what that change is or how fast the education system will adapt. This is very, very hard. If corporates are, the education system is maybe even slower.
Yeah.
But I see a lot of potential there. To answer your question, when I started my consultancy firm, I thought I should go to more low-tech industries, more low-tech companies where they are not very digital and they can skip the digital age straight to the AI age.
Yeah.
I was wrong. I was wrong not because the potential impact is amazing.
Yeah.
But they are not ready.
No.
One executive in a pharma company told me, when we stop use fax machine, I will call you. So it's like, this is not even something that we can speak the language or understand what you want. So my focus now is in the technology companies, and even in those companies, even if there is knowledge about AI, there is a lot to do in order to take generative AI and implement it into their processes on the one side, which is easier. and then into the product and offering. What is your value proposition? How much or how acceptance is your audience to experiments? And I see a lot of value there. And we are moving now from the experiments into the implementation. And it's fun. I really enjoy it.
It is a lot of fun. And I think like the scale, how do you scale that within the organization? That's the hardest part that people kind of struggle with. They imagine like, we're just going to do AI and it's going to be 5 minutes and then it's going to all work. They don't realize all the work that kind of has to keep on going and, just modifying the data, making sure the data is clean, making sure that the training is still there for that data. And I think when I built my first AI agent, that's what even being in the space for so long, I underestimated the amount of effort that it takes to scale something from experimental to production.
And the edge cases are always very complex.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the customers are testing those as edge cases.
They're testing them and they're going to continue to test them. I think there's less desire for hallucinations, right? I think when we talk to humans, we realize sometimes they're not telling us the truth, and we're okay with that because we're used to kind of reading body language, trying to adjust for that. But we don't have that same adjustment for technology. And I think that's where AI gets into trouble. They're like, well, there's all these hallucinations. We can't trust it. The legal team gets involved. They're like, we can't tell our customers lies. We have to be careful. And so these projects get pulled back or minimized in scope. And instead, we just have to be like, hey, well, you have to process the information. You have to still use your critical thinking. Like the machine is still the machine, but you need to do your own thinking. I think that's the part that sometimes we get like, oh no, the machine said so. So,
And I think we will adapt. I think that now, if you were a bot, it would feel a little bit awkward.
yeah,
But in 5-10 years, I think it will be like my bot would have been interviewed to this podcast with your bot
right.
on something
Yeah.
much more strange and better accent.
Yeah, it's so true, right? It's already that your digital twin will do most of that work. So it's very exciting. So I want to kind of, you're obviously an expert in the space. You see a lot from startup perspective and with the Linux AI Foundation. Tell us kind of what advice would you give to our listeners? How should they learn? What should they be on the lookout for?
So in the lookout for, I don't know,
Nobody knows.
but advice for those that didn't start,
Yeah.
start, experiment.
Yeah.
Do something. It doesn't matter what. Do something. Start small, start big. It doesn't matter. Find a pet project. And I don't know, if you want to learn something, the tools are so available now.
Yeah.
You can, and as we mentioned earlier, you no longer have to be a software developer in order to develop software.
Right.
I've seen so many examples, and I'm doing some pet projects myself. Like, just do it. And then when you feel ready, then you can jump into the next level. And if you are a leader in a corporate, start implementing something within your environment. Maybe if you want to start in an easy way, use the tools to boost your productivity. Now let's use AI in marketing, in sales, as part of the legal process. And then the more interesting part, and this is where I really enjoy working with my client, is let's understand your value proposition and let's build AI into that, into your offering, into your products and services. And this is more challenging. This is where you meet those problems, but it's fun. Yeah.
So once
Jumping.
people find you, like if they want to reach out and get your help with their business or learn more about the work you do with the Linux AI Foundation, how would they reach out to you?
LinkedIn, I think. Basically, I'm not very active, but I try to stay active on LinkedIn. And usually people reach out to me on LinkedIn. The Linux Foundation AI is an amazing organization that you can join and contribute. You don't necessarily have to be an AI expert. Yeah, you can support even without being a technical AI expert. We do education, we do outreach, we write blogs, and ethics is something that we are working on as well. And not everyone on the ethics or the responsible AI team is AI expert as well, because we need more voices, we need more perspective.
That's,
So I invite you to join as well. And if you want more details, connect with me on LinkedIn and I will.
this is scary. Just jump in. Just jump in. It's okay. Then that's what the beauty of, I think maybe that's what computer science honestly teaches you is that you can't really break things. I think when you're looking from the outside, you're always afraid to break things. Like computers seem so fragile. And I think that's why we feel maybe more comfortable with innovating around this, is we're like, you can't really break it. So I think
Yeah.
just that level of experimentation is so important. And that's where we're at right now with AI. It's just we're experimenting and seeing what will work. And it's been quickly, so we can be a part of this huge change. Yes. Well, thank you so much, Ofer. It's been a pleasure. Appreciate your time today. I've learned a lot, and I hope people join in and as part of your Linux AI Foundation and reach out on LinkedIn.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I hope to see you on the meetings.
It sounds like fun.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much.
Bye bye.
Bye.